This podcast is a 3D audio production, so watch out as sounds may seem to come from beside you or behind you. For the best listening experience, please use headphones.
Hello, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening, and also to explain why you might hear ads like this before, during, or even after an episode. We're a small but mighty team here at Realm, and to help fund our shows, we promote products or services that we think you'd enjoy from a variety of sponsors. If any of our ads interest you, one of the best ways to support us is by visiting the link or using the promo code in the ad. It's pretty much a win-win since you can get some great deals and we can keep making awesome shows like this one. You can also visit realm.fm/partners for more information about our sponsors and how to access the different promotions. Thanks again for joining us in our corner of the universe. Listen away. Calling all Tatiana Maslany fans, we've got some exciting news for you. Tatiana's other podcast with Realm, Power Trip, is nominated for a Webby Award in Best Writing. Whether you're already a fan of Power Trip or you're heading over there right now to listen because, let's be real, we can never get enough of Tatiana, we're calling on the Clone Club to help us with this award. Listeners can vote for the People's Voice Award until April 20th at 11:59 Pacific Time. You can find instructions to vote at realm.fm/vote. Your support means the world to us, so thank you in advance for your help.
Realm presents Orphan Black, The Next Chapter, Season 2, starring Tatiana Maslany, Jordan Gavaris, Evelyne Brochu, and Kristian Bruun. Episode 10.
Shannon, put the gun down. I don't want to hurt you.
The gun trembled in Shannon's hands.
Oh, yeah. Bullshit, you are hurting me. You can't be happy, so you don't want any of us to be happy. You don't care about the hate and abuse we've escaped by coming here. You can't stand the thought that some of us might actually enjoy being together because you're completely incapable of being with other people, and now you're trying to ruin everything. Shannon, there's nothing here to ruin. This whole place is a lie. Blythe has been lying to you. She gave us a home. She gave us a community.
Was that a tremor of doubt in Shannon's voice? Maybe somewhere, deep down, she knew Vivi was telling her the truth. But in every cult, the truth ceased to matter. What mattered was how the leader made their followers feel. It was as simple and as terrible as that.
You can build a home and a community on your own. You don't need to abandon everyone you know and leave the whole world behind. In order to have those things, all you have to do is... You can't even say it, can you? You're acting like it's so easy to build something in this world, to stay connected to people, to find something worth hanging on to, and really you have no idea. Yeah, I know all about you, Vivi Valdez. Blythe made sure of that. You have no friends, no family. You and your own bosses want nothing to do with you. So don't waste your breath telling me how I should be able to do all this on my own. I thought I was part of something that would last forever, and then he found out I was a clone and he beat the shit out of me. That's exactly why I don't want to hurt you, Shannon. You've been hurt enough already. I think that Blythe is hurting you too. I think she's gonna hurt a lot of people. She's gonna make it so you can't get your lives back.
From somewhere nearby came the sudden chirp of a sat phone. Felix hadn't run more than half a dozen steps toward the beach before Helena yanked him aside, putting the shed that had been his prison between them and Shannon. Helena shoved him to the ground, against the back wall of the building, while she reached into her satchel.
Helena, what the fuck? Vivi told us we have to get out of here. We've got to get to the... Oh my God, what is that?
Helena's hand emerged from the bag, holding the scariest-looking knife Felix had ever seen. It was at least as long as his forearm.
You like? We buy it in Yukon.
Honestly, Helena, it's horrifying. Just what are you planning to do with it?
We cannot leave Vivi. She is Sestra. You wait here. I help Vivi, and then we'll leave this place together.
Felix wasn't surprised Helena didn't want to leave Vivi behind. But he wasn't keen to see her risk her own life to do it, even armed with a knife that looked like it could cut a person in half. But by the time he opened his mouth to protest, she had already rounded the corner of the shed.
Helena? Helena, are you there?
Sarah, is that you?
V, are you alright? Where's Helena?
I've been better, honestly. Helena was here, but she's about to do something stupid.
Well, stop her. This is important. We're working on getting you lot off the island, but first, I need you to get those women in front of a working TV screen and have them tune in to tonight's national news from Canada. We're going live at 7, all of us. Me, Cosima, Allison, and Rachel.
You're doing your first national media appearance without me?
Be help, mate. We have to do this. We've had Blythe that proves...
Sarah! Now you listen to me. This is deadly important. Now you tell that makeup artist your skin has a cool olive undertone.
Murdered and took her place.
What, Sarah? You're breaking up.
Hold tight. The cavalry should be soon.
What? Say that again. Sarah, are you there? Sarah!
The gun in Shannon's hand wavered at the sound of the phone, and Vivi knew she wouldn't get a better chance. She grabbed the wrist attached to Shannon's gun hand and neatly twisted it. The weapon fell to the ground. Using Shannon's weight as leverage, Vivi slammed her body into the forward wall of the shed. Shannon stumbled back, clutching her nose. That's when Helena reappeared, carrying a Bowie knife, of all things. Seeing Shannon staggering, she ran toward her and forced her down in the sand, holding the knife where the other woman could see it.
Be still, be quiet.
Shannon's eyes grew wide when she saw the knife, and wider still when Helena flashed her teeth. Vivi bent down and relieved Shannon of her remaining tactical gear.
I told you two to leave me here. No clone is alone. That's not funny, Helena. Where's Felix?
Right here. I've got some news.
They used Shannon's overshirt, which Helena cut into strips, to bind and gag her. Blood streamed from her nose. Tears streamed from her eyes. Vivi thought of all the times Shannon's husband must have done the same kind of damage to her, and felt her stomach twist. She secured Shannon as gently as she could. Then they locked her and Felix's still unconscious clone guard inside the shed. Once that was done, Felix filled her in on Sarah's unfinished call. It was hard to be sure what to make of the broken message, but the parts Felix heard clearly persuaded Vivi that maybe the Canuck clones were onto something. If they had something solid to use against Blythe, making sure the cultists heard it might be their best chance at breaking her spell over them. Unfortunately, their attempts to re-establish contact with Sarah or call Arun on Helena's shitty sat phone had failed. It had power, but it was no longer holding a link to any comm satellites. They were on their own.
What time did she say that interview was?
7.
Okay, I'll just have to make sure as many people see the broadcast as possible.
How are you going to do that when Blythe controls all communications on the island?
I think she'll want everyone to see it. She's a narcissist, Felix. Narcissists get off on anything that's about them, even criticism. It means someone's paying attention. The attention is just fuel for them. All I have to do is tell her the truth about what the Sestras are planning, and her own ego will do the rest.
You think she goes for this?
She'll go for it. Oh, definitely.
Standing in Blythe's office, Vivi allowed herself to feel cautiously optimistic.
Wait, so you want everyone to watch it? Of course. This is the sort of opportunity I've been waiting for. It's important that our sisters see firsthand who our enemies are, what they're saying about us, and what their narrative is. Huh. Yeah, I think you're right. Of course I'm right. These Sestras truly have no idea what they're up against. If they mean to declare war, I'll be very happy to oblige them. There's just one thing, Vivi. Oh, exactly how did you hear about this? My people haven't told me anything about it. How did you learn of it? Felix told me. Shannon and I caught him trying to escape, again. He'd gotten a hold of another satellite phone and was trying to call his sister. His sister is the one who told him. I see. And you believed him? I can be very persuasive. Yes, I can well believe that.
Had a trace of coldness crept into Blythe's smile? Did she suspect she was being played?
That's why you brought me to Haven, isn't it? I'm just happy to be putting my skills to good use. God knows the agency had no use for them anymore. I want to thank you for giving me purpose again, Blythe. You're quite welcome, Vivi. Where is Felix now? Detained. I left Shannon in charge of watching him. She's really made great progress. Hasn't she? I'm so proud of her.
Vivi thought of Shannon's bloody face.
Me too.
A Tibetan singing bowl trilled outside the office, announcing Natalie, who hurried inside, her forehead creased with worry.
Blythe, I have bad news. Is it about the Sestras' next TV appearance? How did you know? Because Vivi told me about it, after she wrung it out of Felix. This is why I wanted her as the head of security. She knows about these things before they happen, not after everyone hears about them on social media.
And just like that, Vivi spotted a new opening.
Social media is the thing, though, isn't it? This is an opportunity, like you said, but we don't have the advantage. They do. The Canadian clones are trying to start a conversation about us, but we can't participate. Unless we all have our phones. You think we should give the phones back?
Vivi knew this was a gamble. Playing to Blythe's ego so she'd actually want her followers to watch the broadcast was one thing. Trying to coax her into allowing them the use of their phones was something else entirely. If she messed this up, they were well and truly fucked.
Just temporarily. If this interview airs, and none of our sisters here have a chance to respond to it, it'll look like you're silencing them. And if you really want to counteract whatever bullshit it is those women are spewing, wouldn't it be easier with all the women of Haven on your side talking about how great things are here and encouraging other sisters to come join them? I think Vivi is right, Blythe. I've been monitoring the feeds, and I think this could really help us. Help you, I mean. This could really help us help you.
Blythe looked anything but persuaded.
I'll think about it.
Like me, I'm sure you're all trying out all sorts of things to save money recently. I've found the best ways don't actually require me to change too much of what I'm already doing. Like with Rakuten, which is the smartest way to save money while you shop. Signing up is free and easy and allows you to get cash back at over 3,500 stores across every single category. I'm talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, and just so much more. Your cashback gets deposited directly into your PayPal account, or you can get a check, so there's no extra work to saving while you shop. And the stores on Rakuten are ones that I know and love, so if I was already planning to pick up some things at, say, Sephora, Urban Outfitters, and Adidas, why not get cashback while I'm there? Plus, you can stack cashback on top of other deals like store sales and credit card points, so you're not interfering with your other money-saving tricks. Cashback rates change daily, so see Rakuten.com for details. Go to Rakuten.com now or download the Rakuten app today. That's Rakuten. Become a smarter shopper with Rakuten.
In the end, Blythe got behind the idea. She held the watch party in the Awakening Amphitheater, with a projector rigged to display the interview on an inflatable video wall. None of the clones looked at their phones. Vivi had expected something to happen when Blythe's team handed the phones back, but nothing did. It wasn't until she got her own phone back that Vivi realized what had happened. The phones had all been hacked. There was no evidence of text messages, calls, or emails from the moment she'd left D.C. As far as she could tell from her phone, no one had tried to reach her in days. That couldn't be the case, though, could it? People had been looking for her. Arun had been looking for her. But these other clones probably thought that their families had abandoned them entirely. As the interview got underway, Blythe was having a wonderful time. She'd rigged a mic so that she could provide running commentary over the show.
Watch these women. Listen carefully to what they say. These are the last desperate gasps of an enemy that doesn't know it is already defeated. They have nothing to offer but empty words, and the whole world is about to see that.
Blythe's followers seemed to be enjoying her play-by-play commentary. When she mixed things up with the occasional dig at the Sestras' fashion choices, or their obviously blocked chakras, laughter bubbled up from her audience. Then the show's anchor turned to the matter of the inoculations, and shit got real.
Now, Cosima, you're the scientist of the family. I want to talk to you about some very serious accusations regarding your scientific ethics. Namely that you inoculated these women, some of whom are watching us right now, against a genetic abnormality without their consent.
Yes, I did that. I saved their lives, and I would do it again. Having experienced the illness myself, there is nothing on this planet that would allow me to put my sisters through that pain.
She's equivocating. She's avoiding the real issue.
But don't you consider that a violation of basic scientific ethics? What distinguishes your decision to vaccinate these women without their consent from something like the Tuskegee experiments?
The Tuskegee syphilis study involved 400 impoverished black men being told by the U.S. Public Health Service that they were being treated for syphilis they'd already contracted when, in fact, they were not being treated at all. They were lied to, and many of them died. Where that kind of ethical violation overlaps with our story is in the fact that Dyad and others already knew that clones had predetermined lifespans. We were all sick. We were all going to die. And they didn't tell us. I wanted to rectify that. I didn't want our entire identity to be a death sentence, but I also didn't want to traumatize these women by telling them their whole lives had been a lie.
Who was she to make that choice for us? Who are any of them?
If you're just tuning in, we're here with Dr. Cosima Nahas, Rachel Duncan, Allison Hendricks, and Sarah Manning, clones who possessed knowledge of their identities 8 years before the existence of clones became public, and who were among those at the center of the controversial bestseller, Orphan Black. All of them now live in Toronto, but they came from all over. Sarah, you moved from London, correct?
Yeah.
Was your daughter born in England?
No.
Vivi winced. Blythe pounced.
She's quite the deer in headlights, isn't she?
Well, your sisters warned me you would be a tough nut to crack, and they weren't kidding. Now, I'm told that you and your sister, your twin, Elena, are the only ones among your cohort who can have children biologically.
That's true, yeah. Well, it's mostly true. Cosima and Delphine are having a baby of their own with both of their DNA.
Cosima, is that true?
Yes, it's true. My wife and I were able to take DNA from my bone marrow and implant it in one of her eggs. She's about to begin her 3rd trimester, and now that we know that process works, we'll be publishing the research very soon. It's open source with a non-commercial license. I can't undo what was done to all of us, but Delphine and I can try to mitigate it by sharing our breakthrough with other clones.
We can have children of our own?
And for once, Blythe had nothing to say. If anything, she seemed to be fuming now. The Canadian Clone Club had once again undermined her efforts to bring that knowledge to Haven, and to once again paint them as selfish and secretive.
And how is your wife? I know that she couldn't be with us tonight. Are you comfortable discussing the reason for that?
Well, it's very difficult, but my wife Delphine recently survived a kidnapping attempt by another clone named Janice Foster.
I assure you all there's an explanation.
It was only by acting quickly that Sarah and I were able to stop the abduction, but Janice Foster has admitted she was doing it at the behest of the woman calling herself Blythe Winston.
All right, I think we've heard enough. These women are desperate now. Camille, turn it off.
The clone manning the projector looked back at Blythe uncertainly. She hesitated just long enough for one of the women in the audience to find her voice.
Wait, I want to hear this.
Blythe stared at the other clone in mute surprise. She wasn't used to having her orders challenged, and it seemed to give Camille the courage she needed to let the show go on.
That's a very serious allegation. But I understand we have a video recording to back it up. For those of you watching at home, what we're about to show you is an excerpt from an interview with alleged kidnapper Janice Foster, conducted by Sarah Manning, shortly before she was taken into police custody.
The screen switched to a phone-made recording of a small office with two clones facing each other across a plain desk. One of them was Sarah. The other clone had short black hair and what appeared to be a swollen nose. There was a Tethys logo on the far wall.
I don't know how it all got so ugly. I was so messed up when Blythe took me in. I lost everything, my job, my friends, my fiancé. I thought she was helping me. Now I think she only told me what I wanted to hear, so I would keep listening to her and be willing to do all the terrible things she said we'd have to do if we wanted to make the world safe for clones. That's why I tried to kidnap Dr. Cormier, because Blythe told me to. And I couldn't bear to disappoint her. I was ready to kill for her because that's what she wants of us.
Janice is just trying to save herself. This is what they do. They make us turn against each other.
Shocking and disturbing testimony from Janice Foster, claiming she and others committed criminal acts under orders from wellness guru and outspoken clone activist Blythe Winston. We'll play more of that interview in a moment, but first, I want to ask our guest, because I want to be absolutely clear about this. What exactly is it that you're accusing Blythe Winston of?
Sarah leaned in close, and in her face, Vivi saw herself, saw every moment she had nailed some asshole to the wall.
We're not accusing Blythe Winston of anything because Blythe Winston is dead. She died in a swimming pool in Los Angeles years ago. The woman living her life is her old assistant, Cara Devon.
Natalie's mouth dropped open in shock. The distant tide washed out just as the clones leaned in. There was only the dull roar of the waves. And then, in one corner of the crowd, the ping of a single text message.
Cara Devon.
On the video wall, the clone Vivi had never met, Rachel, took her turn to speak. She looked as if she'd been waiting for just this moment.
Yes. Like Blythe, she lived in California. I was able to find the dyad records of both women and their unique genetic tag numbers. That's how we know, from the forensic DNA still on file with the local police, that the body in Cara Devon's grave is the real Blythe Winston.
Under the night sky, the phones began lighting up.
That's a lie!
On the screen, projected 20 feet high, was Cara Devon's old driver's license. The photo was terrible, but it was Blythe. Vivi could tell. She didn't know how she knew, beyond her growing trust in the Canadian clones to get their nose in any mystery they deemed worthy. But there was something about the mouth, a sort of restrained contempt that Cara and Blythe had in common.
Blythe Winston was already a successful lifestyle influencer when Cara Devon found her. Cara even became her assistant for a time, and then something happened between the two women. We don't know what, but what we do know is that there's this headstone in Forest Lawn Memorial Park marked Cara Devon. And we believe examination of the remains will prove conclusively that inside the coffin is Blythe Winston's body.
Natalie stared wide-eyed at the screen. Of all Blythe's followers, Natalie had been with her the longest. Had she known the real Blythe? She turned to face her boss, her features contorted in horror and disbelief.
Cara?
The clones were murmuring again. Several of them cried out.
Is this a joke? You tried to have a pregnant woman kidnapped? Is this a test? Is this real? You want the messengers to kill people? Who are you?
You can't believe these women or their lies. They're trying to drag me down. I saved all of you.
As one, the clones swung their gaze to the center of the crowd. One of the clones was on her phone. Vivi watched as women reached out, blindly and instinctively, to hold hands with one another. She felt a hand close around her own shoulder.
Mom, is that you? Yes, it's good to hear your voice too, but I can barely hear you. Yes, I'm watching. What messages? What emails? What are you talking about?
They're lying!
The clone next to Vivi startled. She stared down at the phone in her hand incredulously.
Why is my old college roommate calling me? She never calls, she barely even texts.
Vivi squatted next to the clone and laid a hand on her shoulder.
Maybe you should answer and find out.
Slowly, the clone picked up the phone. Vivi watched her start to answer, but she didn't hear what she had to say because her own phone buzzed in her hand. Vivi blinked down at it. Arun's name pulsed up at her from the screen.
Valdez.
Oh, thank God. I'm almost there. Wait for me. Please, wait for me.
Her eyes welled up. Sarah had said something to Felix about a cavalry. She had not been exaggerating.
I have to go.
Vivi watched as the crowd began to move. Clones staring at phones, clones phoning home, clones milling about and holding their ears as the interview went on. When enough of the crowd cleared, Vivi could see Blythe at the front watching them leave. Their eyes locked. Blythe turned and started to run. As she did, Natalie slipped one foot out and sent Blythe sprawling. When her longtime assistant feigned concern, Blythe just shoved her away and kept going. Behind her, Natalie raised her middle finger. Vivi wove through the crowd. Her phone was still vibrating. At the outer edge of the amphitheater, she found Helena, calmly running her hand over the shoulders of another clone who sobbed against her chest. It took a moment before Vivi realized it was Shannon, and that Felix was also nearby, comforting his clone guard. Vivi almost forgot she had asked them to free their prisoners in time for the broadcast.
Did you see where Blythe went, or whoever she is now?
She went into big house.
You okay here?
Helena raised her eyebrows.
Are you?
Vivi turned. Against the night, she could see the running lights of what looked an awful lot like an old long-range tactical helicopter.
Yeah, I'm good.
Blythe's mansion was silent and empty. Vivi found her on the third-floor balcony, watching the ocean. She didn't turn as Vivi approached.
You were never on my side, were you? I wanted to be on your side. But you're an identity thief, a murderer, a kidnapper, and God knows what else. You were never on any side but your own. That's not true.
Blythe fished deep in a hidden pocket. Vivi tensed, expecting her to draw a weapon. But instead she produced a vape pen. It was a shiny, futuristic-looking thing, and it glowed electric pink as she inhaled. She breathed out smoke that smelled like bubblegum.
I didn't kill her. So you've been a secret smoker this whole time, too? Fuck you, this is self-care. I really did want to find other clones. When I saw Cosima, when Delphine inoculated me, I realized there must be more of us, and I was social media savvy. More so than the others, at any rate. It wasn't that difficult. I mean, it's a reverse image search, not rocket science. You worked for the fucking CIA and you didn't put it together. Which really doesn't give me a lot of confidence in America's national security, by the way. The CIA knew. They just didn't tell you. Surprise, surprise. So cute that you expected better. Did the real Blythe expect better from you? Weren't you friends? First of all, I was her assistant. That's a friend you pay in exposure. And second, even the real Blythe wasn't the real Blythe. She had no idea who she was. I should know. I read all her secret blogs. All that money, all that power, and all she really wanted was to find her real mom. It was fucking pathetic. She knew she was adopted. She'd figured that much out. And she knew the story her parents gave her was bullshit. So when I showed up, and when I showed her what I was finding, well, she snapped. Not right away. At first, the revelation excited her, but as she realized she was really just one of over 200 women, she got sad. I tried to help her see the good we could do with that information and her resources, but I couldn't get through anymore. Eventually, she took some muscle relaxers and went swimming. That's how I found her, at the bottom of the pool. Blood all over her face, nose broken just like yours. Maybe that's why I liked you. You always reminded me of her in a way, always looking for your next set of authority figures to disappoint. Or you're the one who slipped her those pills, put her in the pool, and mutilated her corpse. I guess we'll never know, will we? Did you ever care about the other clones? Really? Of course I did. I wanted to take my time and introduce myself slowly to those women, get them used to the idea of being clones. I could have prepared them for what was coming. Empower them with self-knowledge before the world inevitably found out about us. I would have led them into the future. And then, bang, the Sestras go and fuck everything up with that damn data leak. And yes, I know it was one of them. Who else could have done it? Suddenly, these women have boyfriends who want to kill them, or bosses who fire them, or banks that cancel their mortgages. But I had the power to protect them, to avenge them. I gave them a haven. Me. Not their families, not the police, not their governments, not the fucking Sestras or your precious cousins. Me. The Canadians built a sisterhood. They built a community. All you did was build a cult. Some sisterhood. Their own private clone club. Which you must have known about if you were as clever about finding other clones as you claim. You knew they were out there. You could have reached out to them at any time, explained what you hoped to achieve, worked with them, made them allies. Why didn't you? You didn't want to share the spotlight. You wanted to be the hero, which meant they had to be the villains. What else could they be after the choices they made? You know, I'm not exactly their biggest fan, not by a long shot, but even I can see they've done their best under the circumstances. They haven't gotten everything right, but from what I heard tonight, it sounds to me like they learned from their mistakes, and they damn well never wanted to be seen as saviors.
There was a flicker of movement from the direction of the house, and Vivi turned. Arun was there, backed by a group of much older men, all of whom were dressed like the men who played dominoes outside on the buzzing summer evenings of her youth. One of them held out a plastic zip tie. Blythe took a long drag on her pen. Then she put it away and held her wrists out.
At least I made myself into someone I actually wanted to be, Vivi. At least I'm not somebody else's stooge. I may have deceived people, but I never deceived myself. Can you say the same? Because I don't think you can. And I think it's killing you. Yeah, well, at least I know it's not about me.
Vivi watched as Kara was led away. Then she turned to Arun. He was always taller than she remembered him, but now he looked thinner, too. Gaunt. Dressed in black, he looked funereal, aside from the vest.
So, who were those guys?
You might say they're professional acquaintances of your parents in Cuba.
What? Really?
According to the personnel files that I definitely didn't access without authority, yes. And when I told them you were in trouble, they asked what they could do. Just like that. We're all of us off book on this one.
Vivi tried to hide her shock. Arun had gone rogue from the agency? For her? She didn't know what to do with that, so she set it aside for now.
Your men need to secure the armory. They've got military-grade tactical gear in there, plus there's evidence inside of the murders she planned to carry out. And the clones here, they're gonna need help. Counseling.
Whoa, slow down. We saw Felix on the way here. He's the one who told us where to find you, and he filled us in about the armory. My guys are on it. As for the women here, I've got that covered too. There's a group of grad students in psychology from Gainesville coming tomorrow, plus a consultant I know who's done some deprogramming work. He'll be here with his students after I give him the go-ahead that it's safe. But that's really just the bare minimum. After that, these women are going to need social workers, attorneys.
Years of therapy, a safe place to live, protection from people who hate clones, all the things Dyad failed to give them.
I fucked up, Vivian.
It was quite possibly the second time in her life she'd heard him use her whole name. He had inched closer now, but he was staring at his clasped hands and didn't bring his gaze up to meet hers. She strained to hear him over the waves. His voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it, and he'd whispered in her ear for years.
I fucked up, and I'm sorry. I should have protected you at the agency, and I didn't. I should have stood up for you, and I didn't. But if anything I said, or anything I did, or anything I didn't do, if for one moment something I did made this woman and her bullshit seem like what you needed, and I pushed you away and pushed you here instead, then...
You didn't.
His head rolled back and he searched the sky. The night fell fast here, and a few stars were already out. When he brought his gaze down again, his eyes were glittering and just as wet as her own.
If I made you think I give even one single solitary fuck about your being a clone, if I made you think you could be replaced, ever, you should know that's dead wrong, and I'm sorry. And I just wanted to say that to your face. In person.
You came all the way here just to say that?
Yes.
Is that all?
No. But if you'd rather I stop, then now is the time to tell me. If you'd rather I just go, if you need me to leave, if you need me to stay away from you for good, then you have to tell me, Vivi. Tell me now, because I can't.
Vivi got right up into his space. He was shaking, or maybe just vibrating with exhaustion. She knew his voice when he'd been awake for 36 hours. She wondered if he'd slept at all. It seemed like he hadn't.
Quédate.
She wasn't sure if he knew the word, much less in its command form. But something must have translated, because then he wrenched her to him, and she was in the stiff embrace of tactical gear. Her arms slipped around him in return.
I think the best might be overkill.
That's what you're thinking about right now?
I was thinking you could maybe take it off.
Ontario's best weather always arrived on Thanksgiving weekend, like a visiting cousin in town to liven up a wake before the long vigil of winter. It was a proper harvest celebration, with produce still fresh and crisp, and little if any snow on the ground. The sky was a cloudless, saturated blue, the kind that emerged only on especially bright days in autumn. October in Niagara was still the tourist season. There were goth brides in black dresses having a wedding at the casinos and then ducking into one of the many haunted houses up and down the strip. There were wine moms in cashmere cardigans hopping on and off their charter buses as they sampled ever sweeter Rieslings. And, of course, there were the last of the leaf peepers, sweating under their fall vibe cable knits as they posed in their pumpkin patches riotous with color. It was also the weekend of the first annual Clone Con.
Oh, you're with the convention.
How could you tell?
Yeah.
The young man at the front desk chuckled, and she realized he'd heard the same joke quite possibly 200 times in the past 48 hours. She also realized that she didn't care. She wasn't here to be the cleverest clone. She was here to help Charlotte, her most direct descendant, who now understood exactly what kind of community she wanted to build and was busy doing it. Granted, if it had been up to Rachel, She might have done it differently. But then again, if it had been up to Rachel, CloneCon might not have happened at all, and certainly not in a casino anywhere but Monte Carlo. She shared a lift with a clutch of other clones on the way to her room, and one of them grew particularly excited when she recognized Rachel, pointing at her own name tag.
You're a Rachel? Oh my god, I'm a Rachel too! Hi!
Because of course, there were other Rachels. There were other Sarahs and other Allisons, and even one other Helena, although she pronounced it like the city. There were Jennifers and Amandas and Stephanies. Cosima was smug, keeping her name to herself. But then again, smugness was her default state these days, now that she was a mother. Rachel had opted for a suite with a view of the falls. As she paused to look down at the waves of mist rising from the white froth, she wondered how many of her identicals were watching the same thing. A text from Charlotte. "Is your room okay?" Rachel texted back, "Everything is lovely." Another text came through. "We're thinking of doing a little pre-Thanksgiving dinner tonight in Cosima and Delphine's suite. A couple of the Boston clones too. Do you want to come?" Rachel stared out at the thunderous wall of water and thought of slow erosion, of the passage of fall into winter, of things dying. She lifted her phone in her hands and wrote back, "Sure."
Why are you nervous?
Vivi leaned out of the bathroom door to see Arun was still in bed. She removed her toothbrush from her mouth.
You know exactly why I'm nervous.
I'm sure they should be more scared of you than you should be of them, Vivi.
Vivi leaned back into the bathroom, spit, then picked up a pillow kicked aside during their earlier exertions and threw it at Arun.
My cousins are not mice.
He caught the pillow and stuffed it behind his head.
Are you worried that if you start hanging out with them, you'll pick up the accent? Will you take the car to the bar in Harvard Yard?
She jumped on him.
I hate you.
I know.
You're terrible.
Guilty.
You can't tease my cousins. Only I can tease my cousins. You have to be nice to them.
His rather magnificent eyebrows lifted.
I've been nice to them for longer than you.
You're right. I shouldn't worry. They probably won't even remember me.
Arun ran his hands up and down her ribs. He did that a lot. It was as though he were making up for lost time between them.
You know that's not true. Dana remembered you, and she'll be there to help you. She promised. She's the one who encouraged you to meet the others, remember?
I know.
And Sarah will be there too? You think your new business partner is going to let you flounder out there alone?
No. If there's a problem, she'll probably say, "Oi, you lot, that's Vivi Valdez. Ace Detective and Valdez and Manning have bills to pay, so piss off."
That's a good impression. You could be like a spy or something.
Vivi rolled her eyes.
Is it true someone from the Bureau's gonna be there?
Yeah. Charlotte's dad's girlfriend.
How do you even remember this stuff? Is this why you have a murder wall in the dining room?
It's your murder wall. I just add to it occasionally.
Charlotte weaved her way through the party, basking in the warmth of her family, catching bits of conversation as she moved through the suite.
Delphine, how did you like the seaweed soup I left on your porch?
It was very interesting.
So you hated it?
Honey, that's not what she said. Right, Cosima?
Right, we totally ate it. All of it, definitely.
It's supposed to be good for new moms. Mothers in Korea eat it to help with lactation. I've been doing all kinds of research into what moms all over the world do ever since we canceled the show.
Yeah, in France, new mothers tend to eat
anything they want. We know. You've told us many times.
They all laughed. Sarah drifted over, with Felix in tow.
After Kira was born, all I wanted to eat were beef patties from Warden Station.
Magically, these cravings only seemed to occur just before the subway stopped running when I was on my way home.
Oi, that's what you get for going out all night and leaving your sister and a baby behind.
Yeah, I had to get out of that apartment. I had to find culture.
Oh, please. There's culture in Scarborough. We love Bailey Downs, don't we, Don?
Well, we certainly love what's happened to our property values over the past 10 years. And I like the house a lot better without the film crew, for sure.
Amen to that.
That's probably meatheads and the nuggets. I'll get it.
I can do it. You stay here and get the baby so Helena can see her.
Charlotte made for the door. As Sarah had expected, Helena was behind it with her boys in tow.
We do haunted house later. Now go say hello to the family. Thank Cousin Charlotte for this very fun party.
Thank you, Cousin Charlotte.
You're very welcome.
Charlotte led Helena to where her sisters were standing. Cosima had her daughter in a carrier, where somehow, despite all the chaos, she had managed to remain asleep.
And this is Gabriella.
Parenthood clearly agreed with Cosima. She was glowing with pride. Helena peered into the carrier.
She is strong and cute like little penguin.
Can we hold her, Mom?
No, you have too much candies in your bodies. You go hold her after you help empties with dishes.
It's a hotel, Mom. There aren't any dishes. That's the point of hotels, not doing dishes.
Then stack the empty ones, sassy mouth.
The boys ran off, and Helena turned to Charlotte.
In Ukraine, we know how to deal with children. There are stories of being tied to horses and torn to pieces when you are bad. Here is all Santa Claus and talking sponges and small electric mouse that does cockfighting for no money.
Charlotte struggled to decide how to begin unpacking all that.
I don't think...
Another knock at the door interrupted her. Allison answered it this time, letting in Vivi and Arun. Art leaned in to speak quietly in Charlotte's ear.
That's them?
That's them.
Well, I should go say hi. While Allison still has the energy to do long introductions. Come on, Jay. I need you to make me look good in front of the feds.
Ugh. For the millionth time, you are one of the feds. You work for the CBSA. We're partners.
You can say that again.
Dad.
Kira's father, Cal, leaned over to his daughter.
Are my dad jokes that bad?
They're worse.
Noted.
Cal followed Art and Jay as Rachel caught up to Charlotte.
I thought this was meant to be a small gathering. Is there such a thing when clones are involved? You have a point.
Charlotte watched Rachel scanning the party.
Dana seems to be introducing Vivi to some of her sisters, okay? And Arun and Jay seem to have a lot to talk about.
They have much to commiserate over, I imagine. How are the clones from the island? Have you spoken to any of them?
I've spoken to Shannon. They're getting the help they need, most of them. Once they've had the time to heal, I hope they'll want to join us, too. Maybe for the next CloneCon. It's not exactly the community I dreamed of building, not yet, but it's a start.
A very good start, I dare say.
Charlotte smiled. In the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the falls, a flash of light appeared. One of Helena's twins threw a glance over his shoulder.
Mata, it's starting. It's starting. The fireworks are starting.
As one, the clones, from Toronto, from Boston, from San Francisco, from London, from Havana, from a convent in Ukraine, drifted closer to the windows to look at the view. Delphine was showing the baby the lights. Cosima was explaining the chemical reactions necessary to create explosions of light and color. Helena was talking about her experience with explosive devices. Sarah clinked bottles with Vivi. Art and Arun seemed to be engaged deeply in some conversation about the Raptors' prospects that year. Donnie wrapped his arms around Allison. Felix and Colin kissed. Charlotte stood to join them and noticed Rachel watching the view of the other clones from her seat.
Do you want to join us?
Rachel nodded. She stood and took Charlotte's hand. She squeezed it.
Look, Charlotte, you did that. You brought us all together. When you and Kira made your choice to reveal the truth, this is what you chose. No matter what happens next, never forget that.
And together, they joined the others.
You're listening to Orphan Black, The Next Chapter, starring Tatiana Maslany, Jordan Gavaris, Evelyne Brochu, and Kristian Bruun. Created and produced by Realm, your portal to another world. Listen away.
Imagine it's a chill night on a desert plain. You're huddled near a bonfire for warmth. Above you looms an endless starry sky, and all around you lies a sea of land. In this void, over the crackles of the flame, we ask, could we interest you in a spot of fireside storytelling? Introducing Temujin, a Webby-nominated adaptation of Central Asian folklore, performed by an all-Asian cast, perfect for fans of The Prince of Egypt or Amadeus. The show is an intimate epic that charts the rise of Genghis Khan, as told from the perspective of his childhood friend turned mortal enemy. All 5 episodes of Temujin are out now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or learn more at realm.fm. Are you dying to discuss what happened in this episode? Become a part of the Realm online community by joining our Discord. Don't miss out on chatting with other listeners about your favorite moments and fan theories. You can join now at realm.fm/Discord. Hope to see you there soon.
Orphan Black: The Next Chapter, Season 2, is executive produced by Tatiana Maslany and stars Tatiana Maslany, Jordan Gavaris, Evelyne Brochu, and Kristian Bruun. Based on the television series Orphan Black, produced by Boat Rocker Studios. Written by Malka Older, Madeline Ashby, Heli Kennedy, E.C. Myers, and Lindsay Smith, and produced by Marco Palmieri and Haley Wagreich. Associate produced by Nicole Otto and Diana Foe. And executive produced by Molly Barton, AMC Networks, and David Fortier, Ivan Schneeberg, and Jessica Shadlock of Boat Rocker. Performed by Tatiana Maslany, Jordan Gavaris, Evelyne Brochu, Kristian Bruun, Alyssa Zia, Vikas Adam, Taya Garlett, Hudson Mako, Stephanie Shea, Daniel Bonjour, Stephanie Frame, Tiana Camacho, Kimberly Marable, and Nathaniel Kwaku. Directed and produced by Kaylin West. Sound design by Rory O'Shea. Additional editing by Corey Barton. Musical theme performed by Two Fingers and composed by Amin Tobin. Music composed by Trevor Yule.